Okay, let's crack on with our PowerPoint presentation. With our mobile phone, we could go to Google and say, okay, barcode number 008811, blah, 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 and go on to Google and Google would search for us. But what you can actually do is add Google capabilities for free, doesn't cost you anything, into your application. And you do that using the Google Search API, which we'll look at shortly. What we're going to do then is look up the entered barcode details. So we want to be able to limit the results to just vinyl stores or vinyl sites. To do the searching then, you have to have a Google account. You can create a Google account, they're free. Then you create a custom search, and it's in the custom search where you say, I only want it to come from this site, this site, this site, or use these phrases, or what have you. So you can limit the amount of information that gets pumped back to you from the site. Google Search is very similar to Symphony Bridge. It has a single entry point, although it's a REST entry point, which is now going to be available through Symphony Bridge come July 2017, as I did say on my slide the other day. It's a single entry point, and you pass through various things. So you get a Google ID that identifies you. You get a search ID that identifies the particular custom search. You can have any number of custom searches, depending on what type of searching you want to do. And then obviously the barcode string that you want to search for. Okay. Now you could change that and pass through the album title, the artist, whatever. But we use a barcode string because obviously if I search for King, I'd not only get BB King, but I'd get L King. Okay? Well, that's not what I want. That barcode is pretty specific to that one album or that one product. It all comes back in a JSON object, so we're going to parse that out. And yes, we're going to use the Newtonsoft JSON to do that. And what you tend to have to do is look at what's coming back to you and then figure out, oh, okay, well, I only want the artist and title and URL to the thumbprint to the artwork and things like that. So you have to look at the JSON. It doesn't come back in a set format, and different searches will respond differently. I also find that different sites may have different names for different bits. So you really have to play around, which is why you limit to the number of sites you do, and then work out for each site which bit. So for one site, it might say that the JSON property might be artist name, but on another site, it might be artist title. Okay, so you have to code that accordingly. It's not difficult, it's just a little bit of work. Now we could implement that in our maintenance program, you know, in some sort of, oh, they've changed the value in the field, let's put it into our maintenance program. But if we did that, we'd have to implement it in our server as well. So what we can do, we can implement it directly in our server, and then our maintenance program is going to get it, and then anything else that talks to that server is going to get it. So what we can do is extend the code-generated data object to say, anytime they enter a barcode, go validate it. Okay? And then we can go and get the information off Google. Because we're going to put it in our server, it also means that we can call it through Symphony Harmony and Symphony Bridge. So when we're on the device, through our Harmony Bridge access, we'll be able to call the same Google searching. That's the goal of it. So let's add that into our little application as we speak. Now, to do that, what we need to do is look at our server project. So we've got our data object here. We're going to extend that, and we're also going to add a method that allows us to do some sort of fancy searching. Now, the easiest thing is going to be to just pull this over from my base over here. Now what I'm going to do now is just bring over some code, because obviously I don't want to sit there typing code, and trust me, you don't want to see me typing code. For those of you who have seen me typing code before, it can be a long and tedious process. So I'm going to drag that over, called server methods, and I am going to bring it into on vinyl data server. So add existing item, server methods. And obviously, we're not black box processing here, so that's my private Google number. That's the ID that they'll give you. This is the Google URL. So if you want to use the Google Search API, it's googleapis.com, custom search, v1. And then that's my string, that's my custom search engine. How did I get to those? Let's just do this, because this is really easy to do. So if I do Google custom search, no, I don't want customer services, custom search engine. Not even going to go via links or anything like that. So using the REST API to invoke a custom search. Okay, this all sounds very good. It tells you what, it tells you how, and somewhere it should say how to get there. So I'll go to the control panel. And this is the control panel, takes you straight there. Now it's pre-logged me in because I'm already logged into Google, I've not logged myself out. So this is my vinyl search. So this is the one I'm going to be using, and I'm limiting the search to Vinyl Express, Discogs, and Barnes & Noble. So I'm just using those 3 sites to say, if you've got the barcode, tell me about the vinyl. They'd love it if I then said, place an order through Barnes & Noble and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure. But that's how you limit the way you search it. And there's various different ways and phrases and all that you can use. But it really is as simple as that to set up a Google search. So, as I say, once you've set it up, you'll get the keys, etc. And then, what you need to do is basically just set up a request, a HTTP request, just as Steve was showing the other day, and go ahead and do it, and get a response from the server. Okay, so 4 or 5 lines of code, and that's making the query on Google, given whatever barcode you've passed in. And you pass in the barcode to this Find Vinyl Online barcode. Okay? And then you basically parse out the results. And I'm not going to go into great detail here because the code will be available, you'll be able to get it, look at it. And it basically goes through each result item that it gets, it goes through and says, well, have you got a cost price? So you've got a item, page map, offer, price, etc. Sometimes you get information, sometimes you don't, depending on which sites you come through. And those responses are parsed out using these simple classes. And these classes are not defined as such by me, although I've written the code. The structure of these classes is defined by the response string you get from Google. So once you do it first time, into the debugger, look at the JSON response string, and you'll be able to see what these classes need to look like. When we get this implemented, I'll show you what I mean by the JSON. So now there's an awful lot more information, but these are only the bits of information I'm interested in. So it will only serialize out the bits that I want, not everything it brings back. Okay? Now, this method is called Find Vinyl Online, and up here I've attributed it with an attribute called Method Security True. And what that is part of Symphony Harmony. Because we're accessing this method across Symphony Harmony, Symphony Bridge, that attribute says you are allowing them to access this method through Symphony Harmony. If you do not add that attribute, you cannot execute this method through Symphony Harmony, Symphony Bridge. It will not let you. It's a security feature. So you can have a class with dozens of methods in, and if you only attribute one, they can only call that one. Okay? Whether it's public, private, or whatever, it doesn't matter. You will not be able to call it if you do not attribute it. It's a security feature. We're also going to add a little bit of app logic. So that's going to be our server, and we're going to add, there's a little bit of logic here called app logic, and we'll add this in to here. Add existing item, app logic. And let's look at that. So here I've got a static class. Static class means you don't create instances of it, you can't create instances of it. There's one instance, it's created when you first use it, and it's in existence forevermore. So everything and everybody uses the same instance of this class. It's going to create an instance of our server methods class. That's the one we've just been looking at here. This is our server methods class. And there's our find vinyl method within it. There's a data object. And then we've got a constructor in here that will get called. You don't need to call this. You don't create an instance because it's a static constructor. It will be executed whenever you first reference anything in this static class. And in there I'm going to create a private instance of my server methods and a private instance of my data object. You'll see where we use this logic in a few minutes. And then I'm going to do a call, get image from barcode, and pass in a barcode, which then calls into my server methods find vinyl online. So it's this little beastie here, this find vinyl online, that's actually doing the Google search, but I'm fronting it with this get image from barcode. Okay? And then this just accepts a string which will be the barcode, returns a string which will be the image URL. Because that at the moment is all I'm interested in. Get image source is another way of getting an actual image source, not the URL, which is a string. And then I've got these last vinyl details, which whatever I've just read from Google, that contains that information. So let's look at extending our base data object then. And again, I'm not going to write the code, I'll just zip it across from my semi-pre-potted stuff over here. We'll add that into the solution, and then you'll see how easy it is to extend a data object. Notice the name. We've got vinyl details underscore data.codegen.dbc, and we've got vinyl details underscore data.dbc. We've not got the .codegen.dbc. The .codegen.dbc is the code generated one. Do not ever touch that one. The non.code generated is our manually done one. So let's look at what that shows us. Because it's a partial class, it means that what happens is the compiler brings both of those files together and compiles them as one entity. It sort of merges them together for us. One of the things of the base class, which is in Symphony Conductor, the base data object class, is an overridable method called extended constructor. Extended constructor will be called by the creation of your data object at the time it's created. So once the base constructor has been executed and your data object is created, or instance of it is, that method will then be called. So in here you can do some, okay, I have a data object now, what else do I want to do type logic. So what we're going to do is hook up an event handler to our validate data. Whenever you change data in a Symphony data object, it raises a validate data event that says, the data's changed, I've done my level of validation based on the repository, is it required, has it got a value in, is it a range, etc. Do you want to do some custom validation? Well, actually now I do. So the do validation is the event handler that gets past this message block. Now this message block, in here we've got, it talks about field names, failed reasons, there you go, field name. So we get past the field name, whether the field's required, the start position of the field in the record area, various bits of information. The pertinent one is the field name. So we get past message.fieldName. Well, if that message.fieldName is barcode, and barcode is currently empty, it's null and void, doesn't have anything in it, then basically what we want to do is call our get image from barcode. So when we enter a barcode into our input field and tab away from it, validation will occur in the data object, that event will be raised, this method will be executed, and we can now validate a barcode. So we're going to use that server method to do that barcode validation. And remember there was a last vinyl details property as well? We can also call the properties on that. So in theory now, if we build all this, oh, input Windows Media. Oh, okay. So it shows how real time this is. References, add reference, which one do I want? Assemblies. Let's put system.drawing and see if that's the one. Oh, ha 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 ha. Because I'm in vinyl maintenance and it's in the server that I need to add that. There you go. There you go. So now if I do a new one, I'm going to scan these and tab away. That's now going through the Google search and bringing the image back, etc. So those few lines of code, okay, I know I've dragged it in, but you're going to be able to get this code after the pros conference. You can see how easy you can build that sort of stuff up.